All right, more of the commentary. I left off in the middle of episode 2. This is not the Volume 5 review. This will not contain any commentary that will be included in the Volume 5 review. And on top of that, the commentary gets a lot less dense with things to talk about. So where an hour took me through like an episode and a half, an hour's probably going to get me like 4 or 5 episodes in this time.
I think I forgot how to do commentaries.
I was literally just thinking that.
Yeah.
This is turned into riff tracks.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah. You sure are. That's, I should really edit this part to the beginning of the video so people will know why I'm skipping around so much. They just sit around making jokes the whole time after Gray and Cohen leave. I guess having their bosses in the room was keeping them focused. But there are some things I can still address, hence why I'm making the video.
This is definitely one of my favorite scenes of this whole volume. Just the way the whole thing turned out.
I can definitely see that. Comparatively, this scene is a lot more functional than other scenes. It's not that great, but we do have a clash of characters that ends in a promise of something moving forward.
The environment's a great juxtaposition to that really open sky and blue, and then immediately we're in this dark red, heavy place.
The thing about this juxtaposition, it's only a cosmetic juxtaposition. Like, we're going from a threat to another threat. And the rest of the volume takes place essentially in a room with bright blue walls and a dark red couch. And that doesn't have any significance to the feelings being brought up here, because there's really like no threat in that room. It also appears before this scene, like it appeared at the end of the last episode. So I'm not like completely sure what it is they're trying to accomplish by pointing. Maybe they're just mentioning it for like no real reason.
This was originally the first scene of the whole volume.
I feel like I should have more to say about this. The actual structure of Volume 5 was a huge problem, but that's really because all of the scenes in it, like, shouldn't have existed, and not necessarily that they were in the wrong order. Putting this scene first would have given us more of a feeling that it was an inciting incident, even though it happened somewhere in the middle of all these events. We're not 100% sure when Adam actually took Sienna's throne. We're pretty sure it happened sometime in between, Gira's speech in episode 3, in between that and their scene in episode 5. Also, the very first line in the volume wouldn't have been a massive continuity error.
The city of Mistral.
So, I guess their better judgment failed them again.
Volume 4, there's a lot of reflection. We wanted Volume 5 to be more positive and more about taking action. And we were worried that having such a dramatic and poor outcome for everything, didn't want that to start the season off, because we thought that might have not the right tone that we wanted to set for the season.
Okay, so I have a massive problem with this. With this whole, like, the tone that they did start the season off of, in episode 1, was like, now you guys gotta sit and wait for unrelated parties to advance the plot for you. That's the opposite of taking action. In this scene, Adam is going out of his way to go kill Sienna and take her throne. Like, that is taking action. So, I don't know what they were thinking.
You can see he has scars hidden underneath his jacket.
We actually added those at the very last second in Volume 4.
Why wouldn't they be on the character model, like, from the conception phase? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm not sure, like, how their pipeline works. Not sure how their production schedule handles all this kind of stuff. But if it's part of his character physically, I mean...
We knew that's what he was going to do and how he was going to use dust. But we wanted to make sure that got in.
Why'd they have to, like, add it later if they always knew what he was going to look like?
I think the height and placement of these stairs was one of the most discussed assets of the whole volume.
Okay, so... these stairs, they do in fact change. In the beginning, they're like really wide steps that Adam like walks up menacingly. And then at the end, they're like really narrow steps. But unlike in other scenes, this one completely like bypassed me until they brought it up in the commentary. Because there's actually something happening in this scene. So you're thinking about that. Like, people will say bringing up animation errors is nitpicking, right? I've heard it a million times. But the point is, if there's nothing going on in the scene, then you're only left to, like, dwell on all of the tangible aspects of it. Like, at the end of the volume, in episode 11, there's nothing going on. All it is a bunch of people standing around, nothing happening. So whenever somebody just, like, teleports, you're like, wait, what? There's nothing to get lost in. You're just staring at the moving pictures, and you're like, wait a second, why isn't Mercury moving there? You know, go back to the scene with Adam and Sienna. You're like, well, okay, what's Adam's game? Is he going to try to turn Sienna, you know, to be more radical? You know, is Sienna going to like give him the business, or no, she's just dead now. Oh shit, well, how is that going to affect anything? And then, you know, this animation error slips right by you because you're focused on the story, right? But it's still the story's fault if they don't give you anything but animation errors.
Can't flip. She's got 8 more lives, right?
Exactly. There you go. She's gonna come back.
Don't make those promises. Dude, you know this is going to end up on Tumblr like,
Oh, ha ha ha. I like how this sparked a huge response from people. You know, they constantly refuse to kill characters that have never done anything. You know, in Volume 4, they refused to kill Crow, right? They refused to kill Tyrion too. And then the second they kill somebody who has nothing to do in this story, then everybody freaks out. It's like they just took a gamble on which character designs people wouldn't miss and they bet wrong. It's very similar to that potential argument that I hate so much. No, it has so much potential just means that it's not good yet. She had so much potential. All that means is that they didn't ruin her yet. I don't know. I'm not adverse to letting characters with good designs die. I approve of this. I don't approve of how it ended up, but I approve of it in theory.
Garrett did a really great job this volume as well. He's the voice actor for Adam Torres.
I know it's hard to expect people who don't want criticism to be able to give it out, but I mean, they're only hurting themselves by not expecting better.
This was my business, not yours.
I mean, throwing out compliments like that devalues them. Get to that in the next episode, I think.
This crossing of paths for different characters was something that we kind of came up a little bit later into the writing process.
You know, okay, they're about to cut themselves off, and I needed to, you know, pause this so that I could actually play this clip out in full.
And we're really glad that we did.
Yeah.
It was a fun little thing. Leo looks so sad. I just noticed that.
He's a sad boy, man.
Okay, so late into the writing process, they added the crossing of paths, right? And they don't like explain it, they don't justify it, they don't say why exactly they were glad to have gotten it in. The reason I want this commentary track is to learn more about their thought process, why they picked each scene, or even to know that they had a reason to write each scene. Like Weiss ending up in the bandit camp, it leads to Yang finding her, right? Yeah, so she's in a cage in one episode, and then, you know, Yang finds her when she breaks out of the cage. And that's fine. But what was the alternative? What did the story look like before they changed that part? Was she just supposed to end up in Mistral? Did she just get there completely fine? Or was she always intended to crash on the beach and then, like, make her way to Mistral on foot? What was the thing that they were happy that they got to replace with Weiss sitting in a cage doing nothing? Because I personally can't think of anything that would be worse than that.
Go figure, the producers are busy.
Yeah, Gray and Cohen
Yeah.
had to step out, so now it's just your writing friends.
I don't know, I find it amusing that as soon as the producers leave, the commentary like immediately starts discussing how much they can avoid talking about the show itself.
All right, so our bosses are gone. Like, what do you want to talk about? You liking Darling in the Franxx?
This is one of the main reasons why I thought I could go for so long on that like first 2 episodes of the commentary. The rest of it, a lot more sparse. A lot more just, just bad inside jokes.
For the rest of these, can the intro just be talking about nothing?
whatever we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of love that idea.
Okay, cool.
Something that we really wanted to do with Volume 5, bring back some more smiles.
They did a really bad job of that. You'd expect them to try to go back to being a comedic show with funny dialogue. So you would think that they would incorporate more funny dialogue. Because like Volume 1 had some funny dialogue. I mean, I drink milk and Birdie no. There was things like that. There's nothing humorous about Volume 5. So I don't know what they were thinking. You know, humor is completely subjective. So, you know, who am I to say that Volume 5 wasn't hilarious to you? All I can say is there weren't jokes. Like there weren't punchlines, at least. That I can say with certainty.
Yeah, I like that you said that, and then we came out on the scene where no one's smiling. They are by the end of it.
What the fuck? No, they aren't. These aren't smiles.
The first 2 episodes were a little bit longer than they should have been.
Yeah.
But we, felt it was important to get out everything that we did.
You know, credit where it's due. They did get out everything that they had to in these first 2 episodes. That was letting the audience know how much waiting was in store for us. But they did accomplish it. Not sure to what end. Like, they set us up for a perfect, handoff, basically. We've established that Team Ranger is going to be waiting, and then we've established that Weiss is going to be waiting. Then all we have left are Yang and Blake. So we were poised to take those two characters and give them like the sole focus up until whatever was gonna happen was gonna happen. But you're gonna see very quickly that is not what they did.
Obama's speech declaring that Osama bin Laden had been killed. A person who could speak very well, delivering some bad news.
Bad news? Carrie, what the hell is wrong with you?
Just very serious news.
Very serious news,
grave
I guess,
news,
yeah.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you for stepping in and keeping Carrie off of fucking FBI watch list. Jesus Christ. Osama bin Laden was killed. Such bad news, guys. Is this the amount of care they put in?
Man, I love the dude just to the two guys to the left, of course, the confetti there.
Yeah, that guy has silver eyes.
To the two guys to the left, of course, the confetti there.
Oh, yeah.
They got some fashion.
They're fancy boys.
Where did they go? They were in the front row like a second ago.
Sun's on watch.
Sun's on watch. He's doing a bad job. I wonder how much of that is that they just forgot to pose him in the right place. Like, Illy is gonna pop up. She just is. You know it's coming.
We used a new software this year called Gollum, which is used for crowds a lot.
You know, I'm glad they have this new software that can allow them to help tell the story easier, especially because of what the Tech Crew commentary devolved into last time. Having the ability to make the busy work easier is always a good thing. Because like in Volume 4, they needed the crowds, right? They didn't have them, so it was very hard to take the menagerie part seriously. Now in Volume 5, they have better crowds, and now the dialogue is the reason you can't take the menagerie part seriously. Hey!
This is also where we called out the definitive time difference between Blake's storyline and some of the other people's storyline. We're kind of to explain the behavior of some characters and like travel time for others and yada yada yada.
To specifically call out travel time as one of the things they were explaining by mentioning that Blake's timeline is a month earlier than, you know, the Mistral timeline is really, really bad. Okay, honestly, Gira should have said 6 months, not 2. And he also shouldn't have said fall semester. I think you should always know how far apart your characters are. And I understand that a lot of people don't feel that way. And they're just like, oh no, they're there now, it's fine. But when you think specifically about what Volume 4 was, it was characters walking to Mistral with a purpose. And it took up a certain amount of time. That amount of time passing was the direct result of their actions. The writers are purposefully putting emphasis on the distance the characters travel and the time it takes to travel that distance.
2 weeks?
What?
Okay, fine. 3 or something.
So they can't pretend that it doesn't matter because that's what they're basing their story around. If it was like, oh, we're here. Oh, they're here. Okay, that's great. Then there would be different emphasis. But no, Volume 4 was specifically about time passing. Volume 5, Episode 7 makes a huge deal about time passing. If they insist, then they have to come up with a story to tell that isn't contingent on time passing.
We'll say it in, both things in the same episode, and that should hopefully get the point across.
What point was that exactly? Understanding that there is a time difference is important. I know, I get that. But why? I mean, what did it serve? It doesn't matter. In Volume 5, everything is contingent on when information gets to its destination. The actual time frame is a lot less important than it was in Volume 4. We need to get the information that Adam killed Sienna to Menagerie. That's the line. That's the trigger. That's the catalyst. They never put any emphasis on how long that takes. They do. It's less than 2 weeks. But in Volume 4, it was months. And they were on a mission. So why did it take that long? And now it takes this long.
Bernie has this rule that he always tells us, he's like, never say a date or a number if you don't have to. But we gotta this time.
So they're saying that they got some purpose to letting you know how far the time difference is when there isn't. There isn't any purpose.
I love Gira.
He's a very good leader.
Yeah, he's not quick to condemn people.
Isn't that sort of a contradiction? You need a leader who can be decisive. There's not being quick to condemn people, and then there's just being completely indecisive. He still wants to give humans a chance. These humans. This is from the Adam short. Saying Gira isn't quick to condemn people is like, no, he's against the mere concept of self-defense. He's not a good leader. He's a failure. And until I watched the commentary, I believed that these faunists from Menagerie understood that about him.
Yeah, between Gira and Sienna, it's just more of a difference of opinion. But between, yeah, exactly, an approach.
Guys, stop arguing with each other under the guise of agreeing. Nice save, Miles, by the way. Gira's entire methodology is diametrically opposed to hers. He just wants to, like, hope the humans will eventually stop being mean. And that's a big problem with pretty much all of the characters in RWBY. All of the good guys are super passive. I talk about this in the review, so I probably shouldn't dwell on it too much in this.
Ilya. God, there's another scene where Shrami just crushed it.
She crushed it. Just like how you just complimented Adam's actor, just like how you complimented Cinder's actor in the last episode, or just like how you're going to compliment Raven's actor. I know I'm in the minority when I say that Ilya's performance didn't really impress me. Much like Volume 4, I would give the top spot in the acting to Yang, actually. Weiss was pretty good, but she's always been one of the best performers in RWBY. And, like, from, like, the professional staff, I liked Corsick's voice actor a lot. Like, I mean, he's, like, a really creepy guy. He should have been Adam the whole time. Or, no, actually, like, Corsick and Fennec should have just mattered more, and they should have got rid of Adam altogether. None of these guys are probably very judgmental at all. So I don't think, any of these professional voice actors are going to be like, oh man, they said I was great, but oh man, they also said that Adam was great. You're not offering any degree of separation between someone actually delivering and then someone who's like, I don't know, recovering from a punch in the throat. I don't know what's wrong with Garrett's voice.
Can we talk about him real quick?
Oh, you mean Saber Rodentia?
Saber Rodentia doesn't have anything to do with a color, does it? Or was that just completely given up on? I wonder if he has a wiki article. He might. I'll see if he has anything to do with a color.
We talked about this before, I think, in other commentaries, where, like, sometimes we'll, like, write a joke into a scene for each other to read.
That's really great, guys, but do you think you might be able to write some jokes for the audience? I know you wanted to bring back the smiles, but the way you do that is by writing your jokes in diegetically.
And obviously Volume 4, we felt as though we needed to kind of live in this low space for a moment, but we don't want to live there forever. That's just, that becomes just an angsty, not fun show.
They're talking about this as though it's something that they attempted.
It was fun bringing in some more comedy, especially in areas like this.
This scene is supposed to be comedic to them. This scene where you find out that Oscar is like just a vessel for Ozpin, this is how they're putting in the comedy. This guy being all somber, talking about the end of the world in an exposition dump. Like, with no life, with no soul in it at all.
Oscar is still present mentally. He's merely handed over the controls. Just don't make us do anything embarrassing. This all must be very perplexing.
And alarming, and bizarre, and just really kind of hard to believe overall.
He passes that off as students having their sense of humor.
It's good to see you children still have your sense of humor.
But that's the kind of shit that attracts Grimm. I mean, those are all negative emotions. Alarmed and confused. That's negativity, right? This is something that he's against. He's against this. This. It's bad. It's not like it's not humorous. When you've established a world where like negative emotions get you killed, that's not the punchline to a joke. You need to work really hard to make something that would get a character killed funny. And certainly not by having another character in the scene say it's funny. That just shows that Ozpin isn't taking this seriously. The rest of the scene.
I mean, it's not your fault.
It's all my fault.
Like, that's the next part of the scene. That's how this scene continues. They didn't write humor into this scene. It's depressing. It would be really upsetting if we cared about these characters. This would be like the darkest scene in the whole show. Nora's over here like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. He's like, yeah, that's right, you don't, I guess. And then he's like, nope, we're all probably gonna die. And it's a joke to them. They wrote this scene as though it was funny.
What are you? I am the combination of countless men who have spent their lives trying to protect the people of Remnant.
That's a joke, guys. That's humorous. What the fuck is wrong with these guys and their writing style? Is it like his like stupid flip at the end of the episode? Is that supposed to be where we all just burst into laughter? Look at Nora. She was the one who was upset in the previous scene. And now here she is like, what is wrong with you? You piece of shit? That's that look on her face. He hasn't done anything to assuage her confusion or anything.
That was one of the edits I was not sure of as we were watching it, because it just went from this very, very down scene to this Nora being Nora.
Hey, wait, didn't Cohen talk about how great the juxtaposition was in like the last episode? So why wouldn't you? Oh, never mind.
On our first day back of writing, we did a big whiteboard of like, okay, so what are things we know that we need to accomplish in Volume 6?
This whiteboard idea stood out to me.
What are things we know that we need to accomplish in Volume 6? Okay, what are things that we just like want to do? And then also did a whiteboard of like, okay, what are things that we know fans really want and things that we need to improve on?
Right.
And then finally like, what are some things that we did okay in Volume 5?
And for them to have judged their own work, you know, to like write down, you know, oh, what's good? What did we do well? What did we do bad? What did we miss? That's the kind of self-reflection that I don't think would really permit something like Volume 5 to have happened. So writing a list of the things they need to improve on, like, did they just like put down storytelling in big block letters? Are they saying this is the first time that they've done this exercise? If not, what did they write down after Volume 4? Because, like, none of that spark is in Volume 5. I wouldn't really call it a spark. None of that, like, actual competence is in Volume 5. They threw out a lot of the good pacing that they had. During the RTX panel, they mentioned how they were going to have other people look over the scripts for Volume 6.
After those first drafts go out, we're spending time sending them out to people internally whose opinions we really value.
But I can't imagine that would help them. Because think about if they started doing this last year with Volume 5. How many editors would actually outstep their bounds enough to fix the problems with this volume? And now imagine being handed say episode 1 of Volume 5 and being asked to like, oh, hey, so do you see anything we could do better? Do you have anything we could punch up? Do you know, anything we could like change in some way? I would probably bet anyone really would just find the best way to accomplish the same goal. You could tighten up some of the dialogue, but if you're willing to allow them to end that scene on, well, I guess you're just gonna have to wait for 10 episodes, then you haven't helped them at all. I get the feeling that Volume 6 could have similar problems if they're not willing to look into where they went wrong. And where they went wrong was the entire concept of the volume. Like, right now, on screen right now, Weiss is in a cage that they have said multiple times she could just get out of if she wanted to. There's no reason for her to be in this cage. She could just go. She's good. She's not helpless. She can just like, just walk out. She's waiting for her like coat check or something. This scene shouldn't exist in its current state. This scene is to facilitate a scene in episode 4. She summons the knight and it doesn't lead anywhere. She doesn't break out until Yang shows up anyway. Why doesn't she just break out right now? Why did she wait for Yang, who she didn't know was coming? All this, like, looking back on your past failures, all this, like, incorporating more eyes into your script. It doesn't help if you're still the kind of people who think that writing a nothing scene into an episode is acceptable. And not only, like, a singular nothing scene, the majority of the scenes are just vacant.
We were actually talking about the smaller version being actually cheapified, like a bigger head.
Why would you consider doing that to the Chibi Knight if the gigantic version and the medium-sized version have the same proportions?
That whole last scene I thought turned out really well.
I thought that last scene turned out really well. Their whiteboard's not going to help them. If they're the ones judging their successes and failures here, and they don't put that specific scene in the, okay, this was an absolute failure, how do we avoid doing something like this ever again? There's like no hope for Volume 6. Carrie thought that scene turned out really well, the more competent of the two writers. That scene didn't have content in it. A scene of a character being passive shouldn't be in the show. Okay, don't take that the wrong way. If you have a character where it is in their nature to be passive, that's fine. But they are insistent that Weiss is completely capable of helping herself, but she doesn't. And they think showing her is not only like acceptable screenwriting wise, but is also somehow a demonstration that she is capable of defending herself or freeing herself or basically having any agency over herself at all. There's no hope for Volume 6 if that is like something they think they did well. Let's move on.
I just don't know if I have a room for a game in my life where being frustrated is part of the experience.
Yeah, I get that.
I've been playing Last Guardian, and that game is very fun.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay, what? This is an off-topic comment that I feel needs to be addressed, right? The core mechanic of The Last Guardian is RNG. There's no guarantee that you'll get Trico to do what you want him to do. So, like, the limiting factor on your ability to play that game is your tolerance for frustration. You're trying to get a big dumb animal to follow your commands, and he just doesn't give a shit half the time. That's not a game that, like, mitigates the amount of frustration in your life. How does the real life have the same kind of inconsistencies as their writing?
So people are upset, like, you guys wasted Monica on Sienna. We never said that was the time you're gonna see this character.
But she's dead, so, like, why dwell on her? I know they bring her back in the Atom short so that she can, like, fight. She's not going to have any effect on the story moving forward. Not that any of the characters in Volume 5 had a significant effect on the story moving forward. But it goes back to this whole problem with them. They don't write things happening. If they think they can kill Sienna and then bring her back, a good reason, they're wrong. They're wrong. Also, this is going to be a Genlock tease.
They're talented voice actors and actresses. Like, they can do multiple voices.
Yeah.
It was gonna be okay.
Genlock 2019. Fuck him.
Oscar's turned into one of my favorite characters by far.
Yeah.
I feel like that's it, honestly. What did he do to earn that spot for you? Is this some, like, shameful admission that you've ruined all the other characters so much that Oscar's the only one left at 0? Does anybody else think that Oscar is acceptable as he stands? He's got the immortal king of the world, the oldest man in the world at his disposal. And, like, he doesn't do shit. Nobody does shit. I'm taken aback.
Something to aim for Oscar, as well as a little bit of motivation for Jean.
What does that mean? A little motivation for Jean? It's the same motivation he's been working on since Volume 1. No, God, I have such a double standard, don't I? I want him to talk more and more about their thought process. Whenever it is, I'm always just, like, disgusted by how bunk the whole concept is. Oscar looking up to Jean, of, like, the shitty one. Not like the other people. He's like, oh, hey, Jean's a loser just like me. I can do that. When he's got, like, Ozpin inside of him, who's, you know, passing on his muscle memory from, like, thousands of years of combat training. Don't look up. Why are you looking up to Jean? Like, I mean, nobody should look up to Jean. In canon, he's the underdog. So having characters look up to him is defeating the purpose. Like, that's his moment at the end of the volume. He's like, oh, God, I'm so useless. Oh, goo, I'm saving somebody's life. If everybody thinks he's cool, that's not the moment he gets. He's got to be the loser. He has to be the loser for all of his scenes to work.
When are we going to make the Norris spinoff show?
It'll be our Joey.
Yeah.
Except twice as good.
I appreciate the honesty.
I hope we can live up to Joey one day. This is one of those scenes where in a lot of other cases we probably would have tried to cut it down.
It's a little disheartening that this is the scene that they would have cut down just to save on runtime. I mean, it's not, like, great, but it's at least relevant. It has that same problem with, like, blatant exposition, but at least it's good to know. This is, like, the only scene with Raven in it that you actually needed to keep. And yet it's the one that they were gonna cut down. Not so much that it couldn't serve from a good old pruning, but, like, there are other scenes that can be removed entirely. Like the last one, for instance. This one just doesn't have to be here at all. Like, the next time we see Raven, in episode 6, that doesn't have to be here at all.
It was also great seeing Yang not taking any crap from her mom. She ain't picking up what Raven's putting down, so to speak.
Yeah, but you know why that is? It's because Raven's not trying to talk her out of what her goal is. Raven's trying to talk her out of a completely unrelated thing to her goal. Yang wants to go protect Ruby. And Raven is, like, talking about Crow and Ozpin and all this shit she doesn't care about. Raven's not really listening to Yang. She had this speech prepared. She read it, like, out of the script. But Yang is on a completely different mission.
Do you think those torches are the kind that have, like, a little bit of anti-bug stuff in it?
It's anti-grim.
Anti-grim torches? Yeah. That's not canon. Don't put it in the wiki.
Now go ahead.
Thanks, Carrie. Let's write down that the torches that are running at 8 frames a second can repel Grim.
That was a beautiful matte painting that Aaron Wynn did, and then in Volume 4, it didn't make it in. But hey, Volume 5, fixing Volume 4's problems.
You know, even as a joke, that rubs me the wrong way. Also, it's orange and blue, so double fuck off with that. I'm glad it wasn't in Volume 4. Volume 4 cut between orange and blue.
Yeah.
Man, oh hey, let's
couple
can we
didn't
real
want
quick? The Shallow Sea, but was
We
something
don't.
that we had in our head since
We're
Volume
not
1.
there yet, but that's fine.
So, The Shallow Sea. This is something that I wanted to, like, put in the review, but, like, there wasn't really anything, you know, important about it, and I didn't have a place where I could just, you know, diverge. But, let's ramble about it for a second, shall we? Faunus with what humans would consider disabilities. Like flippers or Sonic fanfiction. It would be cool to see Faunus like that. The actual Faunus that Miles saw that reminded him to talk about the Shallow Sea
I saw the fish faunus, and I
Did
got
you?
really excited
Okay.
about it.
was on land doing perfectly fine. Like, she's right there. She's right here. Just standing there with her fins, with her fins, and they're not hampering her in any way.
With RWBY, a lot of characters are inspired by like fairy tale creatures and things like that. Like this world's version of mermaids and angels and demons and all that stuff.
That comparison is way too cool for RWBY. Mermaids are like, you know, like evil and vindictive and all. I mean, people crash their boats into the rocks just to go fuck them. The mere thought of angels is like still something that affects a large portion of adults, like in the real world today. Could you imagine if there were actually real things that were like a direct corollary to angels? And like demons gather cult followings, literal cult followings. Faunus are treated like a normal minority group, and they're bullied and treated like second-class citizens and all that. They're segregated in some places, and there aren't really like people who are fascinated by them in the way that those like mythological creatures are. Nobody's praying to them, and nobody's like trying to like burn them at the stake. Nobody's, you know, trying to crash their boats into the rocks just to, you know, get laid. Except ship captain. Oh shit. Blake's not even a fish faunus, so the mermaid comparison is right out the window.
Yeah,
To be
I
like,
mean,
well, I got born with big old flipper feet. I would be great if I could hang out in a tropical zone.
it was really cool that Guillermo del Toro decided to make a film based on Faunus, The Shape of Water.
So okay, they're bringing up The Shape of Water, right? But like faunus aren't treated like that. They don't garner that sort of fascination or like, you know, that morbid curiosity. It's not morbid curiosity, but I can't think of a better word. Now, this might be a result of time passing, like, you know, familiarity breeds contempt and all that. If they were ever regarded as like mythological beings, I honestly think the bigotry we see in the show today would be way more interesting.
This was a fun scene. The idea of what kind of word are you?
What's your word?
What word am I?
Yeah.
He's really lucky. Bad writer is 2 words.
Let's get real for a sec.
The word that I was told I was is courage. In the old sense, the word courage means one who speaks their mind with all of their heart.
But, you know, in all honesty, I can respect that. I mean, he is the guy who said that he didn't take criticism live on air right in front of his boss. So yeah, I can completely get behind that sentiment.
This scene was tough.
You spent a lot of time in the scene.
I
and
did.
I think you did a very good job.
You know, I'm pretty sure that effort didn't pay off. The last revision I made to my Volume 5 review script, which is completely done, by the way, I've recorded all the audio and I've edited it down, and now I've even begun the editing process, so don't worry about that. It's on track to be finished before the sun burns out. But the last revision I made to that script was to rectify the fact that I completely forgot this scene existed for quite some time. The scene is so unimportant. They're coming out to remind us that Penny was a thing. But Ruby's personal interactions are also, like, useless. Because, okay, here she is, and she's in a scene where she's, like, interacting one-on-one with Oscar, like, the new character, the character who's still alive. And she's, like, insisting that the characters who are, like, dead and gone were her friends, even though they didn't ever put that into any, like, moments. They never had a moment. Here's their opportunity to give her a moment with another character, but they're taking that opportunity to like backpedal on all the moments that they missed with characters who no longer matter. They fucked up and they just keep doing it. And they're like, oh, hey, maybe people won't believe that Ruby and Pyrrha were friends. Let's say Ruby and Pyrrha were friends. Okay, we'll put her in a scene with Oscar. And then, after Oscar dies, Ruby will be in a scene with some other asshole insisting that she was friends with Oscar, the guy who she'd never had any fucking scenes with. Don't they see the pattern that they're starting here? They should just let Pyrrha, fall by the wayside and be like, oh no, she's gone. Cinder killed her. But now, just have a scene with Oscar. Or don't. Oscar sucks. Completely dispose of Oscar, then have a scene with the next character, right? They're starting a pattern. That's my point.
That scene was one of the first times I personally was able to see how your directing style has evolved.
Oh, good. Finally, actual commentary. Slowing down. Less snappy editing. More drawn out scenes.
I guess for me personally, it's just because we've been given more runtime.
The ability to let things breathe when they need to is great.
A lot of it is also just because, early couple volumes, there was a lot fewer dramatic moments. The first time, Bernie was looking at the edit that I just made of something, it was always tighter, make it tighter, make it tighter, make it tighter.
Yeah.
That works really well for these comedies.
And you can see what they're talking about while the next scene is going on. So you see these snappy cuts when he's walking around the slums. It kind of cuts to matching shots, right? So he walks up here and he's essentially in the same spot when he cuts into the next shot. And then he reacts even greater. And then he cuts into the same spot again. And then he has an even greater reaction. And those are funny because the cuts are just instantaneous, 1, 2, 3. But then when he gets to this other house, this last house, and it's all gloomy and sad. So they frame the house and he steps into frame. He cuts out to here. And I don't know why the fuck these 3 guys are running away. That shouldn't have been there. I don't know. Maybe some rogue animator is no, it's too boring. But they cut to this wide shot right before the door doesn't open. And he bangs again, and he has to bang again. You kind of get this, feeling that it's not all right. That is, in this directing style. He knows the difference between sad and funny, right? Which is the absolute least you can say about someone, right? But, I mean, you can tell. He walks out of frame, and then they cut to the mission board. If that had been the cuts from earlier in this episode, if it had just cut and then he was there, that wouldn't have had the same emotion at all. I wouldn't really give that compliment to most of the other shots in this season, however. This one where he's talking to the bartender, it's shot reverse shot. It's not very clever. But the one from the last episode, this one at the end with Ilya and Corsican Fennec, it was above average for Volume 5, is what I'm trying to say. It's got some, cool shots where they frame Ilya, between them, really claustrophobically. They're taking up this huge portion of the frame right here. And they're, super tall, and it's a low angle, and it's, they also film her in, Dutch, and have her, walk, really close to the camera. All this, just uncomfortable imagery, putting the candles really close to frame. Some of the shots in Volume 5 are actually pretty well made, not gonna lie. Some of the shots in Volume 5 are really, really bad, though. Not gonna lie.
I think a lot of it too is just what are we trying to say in each shot? What extra thing can we get out without having to add in a line?
I wish he would put more of that into the show, especially when he was writing, because he wants to do stuff visually to avoid putting in extra lines, which I mean is a really good step and something you would really not assume he considers after watching Volume 5. Everything is just line. All of these scenes. We know what's happening in this scene. I don't know why they just decided, oh no, let's direct this scene. Let's not direct any of the other ones. Let's not bother directing this next scene. And it's just, it's shot reverse shot. They're sitting around a table. Ooh, we got teacups and shit. No, he needs to consider this stuff in the writing process. What do we need to know, and how can we show it without boring the crap out of the audience? More scenes like Crow walking around the slums. Scenes of people doing things. He's looking for huntsmen, and it's the only interesting shot in the show. More scenes of characters doing things, because you can convey that information in an interesting way. When characters are sitting around a table talking like they're about to be, there's no interesting way to show it, and there's no interesting way to write it. Scenes of characters doing things. Scenes of characters doing things. This is way worse of a ramble than the last video.
I don't think it ever came out in this volume. We talked about how Mistral is one of the less faunus friendly kingdoms in the world?
So Mistral is one of the less faunus-friendly kingdoms, and it didn't come across in this volume. You're leaving Mistral! Like, you have done what you were in Mistral to do, and you were tasked to move on to Atlas now. You have no more recourse to show us world building about Mistral. You wasted your opportunity to show off.
The idea that Oz purposefully appointed a faunus to his school as a way of trying to progressively move things forward with the kingdom. Not to say that Leo was just a diversity hire, but like...
Yeah, so they even they play off the racism with a joke in the fucking commentary when they have a place to discuss it. It could have been used to further his character development, but it wasn't. He never had an opinion on the White Fang or anything. We never saw Mistral as a, as an entity. The kingdom of Mistral never interacted with Faunus, except at the end when Blake showed up. And that was all positive. They didn't show us anything about, the how bad Mistral was. I talk about this in the review, so I'm gonna move on.
I'm not sure if we'll ever actually show the transformation.
I assume it's some sort of eldritch horror.
Yeah.
Showing the transformation would be one thing, but I'm more interested in what's happening to her clothes. Like, they stay on, so her clothes change too. Would the same thing happen if she was wearing, like, a suit of armor? Or, like, what if she was in the passenger seat of a car?
Still trying to leverage everything she can to make sure that her daughter stays with her.
She offered a portal away. She's encouraging her to go to Crow and Ozpin now. She wants her to come back, but that's not really leverage. She's asking her to form her own opinion, like a normal person. I don't know why that's the jerky part of her.
Boosh! Tell it, Yang.
Wait, what line is a boosh? I know, I should have this volume memorized by now, but I don't. I'm sorry.
All I care about is making sure my sister is safe.
Boosh! Tell it, Yang.
Okay, alright. I mean, I guess that was a little booshy. I mean, that should have been like a moment of clarity for Raven to realize that she's been arguing against something that Yang wasn't interested in. Oh man, that just annoys me about this scene. She doesn't care. She's not listening to Yang. She's trying to tell her all of this bad stuff about Oz, who she's not even invested in. And it's like, why? Why was this an entire scene of Raven spouting off all this shit that Yang doesn't care about, and the audience certainly doesn't care about it, only to be like undercut in the end by Yang going, I don't care about all that stuff. You never gave me a reason not to want to protect RWBY. Ugh. If Raven was actually interested in getting Yang on her side, she could have just said, yeah, sure, go get RWBY and bring her here. Like, that way Yang would actually have a fucking, like, choice to make, and not just like, ooh, that's been stupid, and I'm cool. That doesn't help Yang. That doesn't help Yang.
I try not to ship, but I'm gonna tell you, this shot coming up is the most freezer burn ass thing ever, and I love it. You ready? Boosh! Don't ever talk to me and my girlfriend again.
Yeah. This is a personal gripe I have with shipping in general, and it completely undermines the platonic relationship, almost making that weirder. Like, oh, she's riding bitch because she secretly wants to be Yang's bitch. Not because, she doesn't want to fall off the fucking motorcycle. Why can't characters have friendly relationships? Why does there always have to be some, like, romantic undertone to it?
Now we're getting to stuff that we were extremely excited to have this volume. Kids being kids, having fun.
Yeah, everyone together.
I can't imagine them being excited for the first half of episode 7.
It's also just nice to see how close Ranger's gotten. RWBY fits in with him really well, obviously.
And like openly proclaiming that RWBY fits in, like it's supposed to be obvious. Like, I mean, the most interaction she had was laughing at Jean's hoodie. Here's the laugh.
It's Pumpkin Pete.
Yeah. She's kind of a bitch. She's like away. She's not even like involved with them when we first see Team Ranger. Okay, here are her and Nora in the same frame. Oh, how sweet. She blocks a hit for Nora. It's like they're involved in combat, but they don't have like personal interactions. She shoots Nora with the lightning to charge her up in the Tyrion fight. Here they are again, as she's like giving her the okay to shoot the fucking Grim that they're there to kill. Yeah, Ren gives her shit for underestimating how far the journey was and not, being able to read.
Egon Bana.
They don't really interact. They have like this huge argument at the end of episode something or other. They get in this fight over whether or not Ren fucking knows which way he's going. To say they get along, to say that RWBY fits in, it's like, what the fuck? They're stuck with each other through happenstance. And that was volume 4 that I'm talking about. In volume 5, in episode 1, Jean has this moment where he references that he knows Raven's name.
Yang's mom?
Yeah, there it is. Found it. Woo! So yeah, Jean has that moment where he's like, oh, Yang's mom, which is the best implication we get that Ranger ever talks to each other. It's too little too late. And then to just be like, in this episode, oh, RWBY fits in so well. When she's arguing with Ren over whether he knows how to cook, all she does is argue with Ren. She's like, no, you don't know that this village is abandoned. And he's like, yes, I do. And she's like, no, you don't. And she's like, oh, no, you don't know that these fucking carrots are going to overcook. And he's like, yes, I do. And she's like, no, you don't. And then they burn up. And it's like, you think she would have learned? Been able to maybe trust Ren after he was right about the village and not like argue with him again, only to immediately be like presented with another puff of black smoke, just like the puff of black smoke from the end of fucking volume 4. Is this like some like fucking it's like poetry they rhyme moment? That's what passes for good writing these days, not like actual character interactions. I don't approve. I don't approve of the way they handle character interactions.
This is a really good example of a bit that just like started as a joke. Can we just have Nora eating in the background the whole time? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, your great idea of a background gag there, sure didn't get passed along to the audio guy.
You ready for this? Like father, like daughter.
I actually did not think about that.
These callbacks, man. So impressive. They're so impressive that the writer can be aware of a callback that the director isn't. So that edited down to about 45 minutes, and I got through 4.5 episodes. I guess the next one will be the next 4 episodes, and then there'll only be 4 episodes left for part 4. Go watch part 1 if you haven't already, and if you have, then support me on Patreon.